School life can be a hard, confusing time. Sitting on the street, this girl asked herself, why did she want to change? Was it to find a place where she belonged? But seeing a blonde boy approaching her holding a lemon soda, she knew he was the reason. Sometime after that event, Kai Miura experienced normal days tiredly arriving at school in the morning, where his friends commented on the fact that he'd been drinking lemon soda a lot lately. From the very start, fellow classmate, 15-year-old Uka Ishimori, took notice of him. Two additional classmates appeared to pick on Kai, pointing at how he stood out because of his clothes and yellow hair. In response, he just turned, shaking up his soda to spray at them, accidentally soaking Uka instead. Ayumi scolded him and ran up to Uka, shouting for someone to bring a towel. But all Uka could think about was that someone was actually talking to her and was worried about her as well. She had no idea how to respond in this situation. But hearing Ayumi telling Kai he needed to apologize, she was met by his aloof, simple sorry. This made Uka flush red. She screamed sorry as well while running away. Satoru thinks he may have seen Uka before, so Ayumi brought up that Uka was actually in their class. Changing by the cubbies, Uka recounted her school life not having been good so far. Back in middle school, her nickname was Stone, as she'd often make people around her feel unpleasant, and this would thus lead to her being bullied. But getting splashed by Kai today made her feel kind of happy. Perhaps a little weird of her to feel, but she wanted to live each day cheerfully and enjoyably. Now standing up for class duties though, she hoped her teacher wouldn't comment on her being the only person wearing a PE uniform. However, the teacher did ask about two people wearing it, both Uka and Kai, where the latter had answered he got soaked from spilling juice. Everyone in the class laughed, but Uka didn't remember him getting soaked too. The two of them had gone to different middle schools, but she'd known him one-sidedly since before entering high school. It was winter during her third year of middle school. His hair color reminded her of lemon soda. It was stimulating. Returning home, she received a loving welcome from her mother, and from her father, a comment on how the students she went to school with were too flashy, suggesting that it wasn't too late for her to transfer out. However, she was insistent she liked the school she was going to. She thought of her parents as overprotective, and that her personality was the result of having been spoiled by their kindness. She was careless and always blamed herself, but she didn't want to go on like this. She planned to make a change starting tomorrow. She got too excited and arrived too early to school. This was her chance though. She practiced saying, "Good morning," but her voice cracked at first. Then, she tried again loudly, when suddenly Kai entered. She certainly wasn't expecting this, and wanted to disappear now. But Kai gave her a good morning back, then had her repeat slowly, having her phrase, "Good morning," with him now suddenly taking a phone call. She was blown away by the fact she had actually gotten a greeting from him. During class, the teacher called on Ayumi to answer, but she had no idea. With him threatening detention, she started panicking. However, she was allowed to call for a friendly lifeline. Uka knew she could solve it, but felt she might be doing something unnecessary by helping. However, she pushed herself through, opening her book to the answer for Ayumi. Getting the math equation correctly now, everyone clapped and applauded Uka's intelligence. She could hardly believe people were saying nice things about her. After class ended, Ayumi thanked her while introducing herself, and offered Uka to walk to class with her and Satoru. Another surprising moment for Uka. However, happiness was fleeting, with some of Uka's old classmates from middle school calling her Stone again, questioning why she was here, and if she flunked Shinsei Academy's exam. These three were bullies, calling her dull, clumsy, always spacing out, and never good at PE lessons. She got her nickname for never talking and always having a stiff face. This made Uka shrink and run off. These bullies took joy in this, simply heading their way as well after belittling her. Kai's friend group discussed the bullies, but also pondered why Uka chose to come to this school. In a hall corner, Uka took her own actions as getting too carried away. That's right, she was just a stone. No, if she kept thinking like that, nothing would change. In the school library, she fell asleep to the words, I have to change. She woke up to Kai saying, I keep telling myself that I have to change, but I pushed myself, and that turned into pressure. It's more like I'm cursed. She was flabbergasted seeing him here and apologized while covering her paper. But in response, he told her not to. She was about to apologize again, but caught herself. Even being in the same space as Kai, she felt her own aura was sluggish in comparison. She suddenly heard one of the bullies from below outside the window, saying she had taken Stone's shoes again. Uka hurried down, where one of the bullies threw her shoes into the trash bin, laughing while they took their leave. Uka stared, saddened, picking out her trashed shoes. She was saddened because nothing had changed. She didn't think any more about it, because it just got more painful the more she thinks. She wanted to harden herself, like stone, but jolted, hearing Kai telling her to have some kind of reaction. He told her to ask someone for help. He was surprised though, hearing her respond, ask who. She now wished she had gotten into Shinsei Academy, where a peaceful and quiet daily life would surely have been guaranteed. She remembered the counselor back then telling her and her mother she'd have no problem getting in with her grades and skill set. But what she really wanted to change wasn't her environment. It was herself. She really wanted to go to Hachimitsu High, where she was at now. That evening during the third-year middle school winter, the bullies bumped into her, accidentally knocking her flyers for her 2 high school choices over. Noticing who she was, they just laughed and walked away. That's where Kai first approached her, picking up the 2 flyers and telling her Hachimitsu High would suit her unexpectedly well. Mostly because he was going there too. He handed her the flyers back and took off with his friends. That was when she had met who she believed was the most gorgeous boy, and bawled her eyes out after his leave. She wondered why her hand wouldn't move during her Shinsei Academy exam, but that moment was why she went to her current school. She believed Kai in no way would remember that, but for her, that moment was everything. Running to the convenience store for a lemon soda, she wished for courage once more. At school, the bullies tried to coerce Uka into buying them lunch, so, opening her bag, she sprayed them with lemon soda. Aha, take that. Finally, some good payoff. The male bully pushed her down, but Kai and his friends came to her aid, with him kneeling down to tell her to say that thing from yesterday, and his words rang through her head. The person he wanted her to ask for help from was him. She struggled with it, so he had her repeat, help me, 1 syllable at a time after him. And then, she said it fully with tears running down her face. He smiled back at her, telling her she did good. Then, got up to call the bullies a bunch of uglies and fuglies, and threatened them to try to bully her again. The 3 only chose to run away. All bark, no bite. Uka continued to weep, and Kai told her to stop crying on her knees like that. She'd get in people's way, especially in the city. She was surprised he actually remembered. Since that day, Kai has been everything to her. She wanted to change. She apologized, smiling this time face to face with him. In the spring of her first year of high school, her curse had been lifted by that lemon soda. At school the next day, Uka spotted 3 girls gushing over the first-year student with the golden hair and pretty face, aka Kai walking to class with his group. Uka wondered if what happened yesterday was real, but accepted she couldn't keep thinking like this if she wanted to change. She gave a meek, "Good morning," to Kai, quickly turning away, now thinking maybe none of what she remembered happened at all. Suddenly getting stopped by him replying, "I can't hear you," because her voice was too low, with her now shouting, "Good morning," so everyone around her could hear. He gave her a, "Geez, you're too loud now." Uka hoped that no matter what happened at school, today, her heart remained unaffected. She hoped to stay as solid as stone. Having received a warm reception from the friend group, she scurried off happily, unknowing that her 3 bullies were still plotting. During PE, the boys spotted her rumored turn-to-stone appearance. She always did this since her bullies had told her to stand still, otherwise she'd get in the way. However, she yearned to play since it looked like so much fun. Kai then went up to Ayumi, whispering something that caused her hesitation. But when she had the ball in her hands, she suddenly passed it to Uka, cheering her on. Uka then proceeded to weave around swiftly, getting her shot in. Everyone was silent at first, initially causing her to go back to her old habit of apologizing, until the girls swarmed her, praising her skills. Kai knew this would have been the outcome, just from a hunch he had. Ayumi then explained to Uka that he was the one who had told her to pass the ball. Outside, while getting a drink, Kai happened to eavesdrop on Uka's father checking in with a faculty member on how his daughter was faring. We turned to their classroom, where Satoru and Ayumi began asking her why she chose to come to this school. Uka responded it was because the school was filled with things she admired. All the students here looked like they had fun and a lot of freedom, yet were so wholesome. Tomoya agreed that was the case. People here really got fired up for school events. Asking Uka what she wanted to do, she told them she wanted to hang out after school and not come home until the moon was out. A daily life that's the complete opposite of who she used to be. But now, all the friends were shocked to hear Kai telling her that was impossible. He added that those things didn't suit her and that she needed to give up. The friends wanted him to elaborate, but before he could, two girls came by calling for him to play with them. The friends tried to console Uka, but she was just surprised to hear him say those words. Ayumi eventually ran up to him, asking Kai what his deal was, but he only responded, "What a bother," while continuing his way. Uka thought Kai was right. Just because things went smoothly doesn't mean that everything she wished for would come true. She was aware she dreamt more than anyone else. She suddenly hears the sound of glass shattering, where outside, some boys are causing trouble. The friend group hears one of the bullies, Maureen, accidentally telling her boyfriend Uka's location, but also panicking because she never told him to come to their school. She was happy to learn he was causing trouble for her sake, and telling him the blonde boy named Kai had caused her trouble as well. Not expecting to see him staring her down, Kai then quickly sprinted back to the classroom. Uka knew she should leave, but became nervous hearing some guys were looking for her. Maureen's boyfriend and another delinquent cockily entered, declaring they knew she was here. While she hid under the teacher's lecture stand, she now had suspicions that this involved the usual suspects, her bullies. Unfortunately, the delinquents found her, teasing her for being bad at hide and seek. Maureen's boyfriend pulled her out, and all Uka could think about was she couldn't let bad things happen here. And then Kai's words telling her to ask for somebody's help rang in her mind. She called for Kai, who suddenly dragged Maureen's boyfriend to the ground. He then told them to back off, picking up a desk and throwing it over the delinquents' heads. Kai was in the driver's seat, letting them know he was the one they were looking for, and threatening them to stop being stupid. The boys started squealing away, shrieking that Maureen had never told them how dangerous Kai was, and the three ran away with the faculty member spotting them. With the event over, Uka fell to her knees. Kai then looked back at her, saying her dad would faint if he met those guys. She was surprised to learn her dad had visited earlier, and that Kai had pushed her away to make sure she wouldn't get in trouble with her father. He then said, "You reap what you sow, so I'll finish this. Your dreams are so small and silly. Those dreams, I'll easily make them come true." And so, he somewhat angrily told her to go straight home to her dad. She reflected on how she definitely wanted to make her dreams come true now, believing she could because of Kai. She had no experience in this area whatsoever, but somehow understood she was in love with him. She was bad at socializing. She didn't have any friends, and love was something that never even crossed her mind. Bumping into a tree mid-thought, she couldn't believe someone like her could find love. Waking Kai up from his mid-class nap, their teacher teased him for not having a single thought in his head. Uka wanted to tell her teacher that Kai was actually quite considerate, paid attention to others, and thought ahead. But of course, someone like Uka could never speak so confidently out loud about him. Seeing Ayumi putting on earrings for once, Uka wanted to tell her they were cute, but Satoru beat her to it. And witnessing Ayumi blush, Uka wondered if Ayumi liked Satoru. She couldn't tell, but noticed they had a nice atmosphere, while comparing herself to be a nuisance to Kai. She didn't want to bother the friends. Just being in the same space as Kai made her happy. However, she had no idea Kai was looking for her. Staring at a window reflection, Uka wondered how others saw her. Her old classmates came by, recognizing her and calling her by her stone nickname. Despite their teasings, she paid them no mind, only remembering when Kai had told her that her dream life didn't suit her. That hit where it hurt. Tomoya patted her head, bringing her out of her daze. Kai arrived angrily, and was now shouting at her to not go home so fast. She didn't get it. Did he want her to head home or stay after school more often? Tomoya then explained Kai wanted to hang out with her today, and Kai reminded her that he said he'd make her dreams come true. He wasn't joking. That made her flush-faced, and as he walked away, telling her to follow, she just kept thinking about how happy she was. But the doubts she had of him being embarrassed to be seen with her seeped in. She then let him know her curfew was 5 o'clock, giving Kai some mild disappointment since it was already 4:30. He wanted to invite her to karaoke, but instead ended up walking her to the bridge near her home. She thanked him over and over, feeling no amount of thanks she could give would ever be enough. He then brought up the day he reached out to her when they had first met. He told her that was just the start. The power that rushed out was something she always had inside, and that she didn't need to be dragged down by her past, turning to tell her that while she may be a stone, she really was a gemstone. Her eyes widened as he told her to ask for more and move forward, and to look down on all those jerks who've ever messed with her. Her happiness had just begun. With that, her painful nickname was transformed into a treasure. She then told him she had a new dream now. It was to not be a bother to him. He then placed his hat on her, pointing out that if someone saw them, it'd look like he was bullying her to tears. He then started to chuckle, telling her he'd accept her dream. Uka then started running back, with everything he said running through her brain. She never once in her life met someone like Kai. She thought maybe she shouldn't fall in love with him so lightly, but knew there was no turning back. Walking back with Tomoya, Kai described how after helping Uka, she's become overly attached. Tomoya could tell since Kai had reached out to Uka. That must have meant everything to her. All while Uka thought of her new dream, to tell Kai that she loved him one day. Dreaming about Kai calling her a gemstone, Uka woke up blushing and back feeling hot. In class, the teacher announced it was the day for seat changes, making Uka panic. She still hadn't asked Ayumi to be her friend yet. With Kai's words of encouragement to want more for her life, she followed them, suddenly shouting at Ayumi to be friends with her. It took a lot of courage, but Uka was still scared. However, Ayumi just quizzically responded, "Aren't we already friends?" And this caused Uka a little panic. Ayumi realized she needed to be more straightforward with Uka, so she held her hands up, declaring they're friends. Ayumi began to clamor that the two of them could call each other by first name, all while Uka was thinking about how good things kept happening to her. They then drew their seat numbers, and with Ayumi saying she'd be at the front of the class while Satoru would be in the back, she got a little sad. So, Uka swapped seats with her. That way, Ayumi could sit right next to him. Ayumi was shocked Uka found out about her one-sided love and tried to decline, but Uka was insistent, making the excuse that she wanted to sit in the front. What a good friend. Now in the front, Uka realized she was sitting next to both Tomoya and Kai. She didn't expect this, but was happy to be next to her crush. The next morning, she was sparkling, giving her greeting to Ayumi. While lecture went on, she thought about how she made a friend for the first time in her life, but now was in between two sparkling boys. She didn't feel she could face her right or left, especially the side Kai was on. She was self-conscious, questioning if her hair looked messy, if there was something on her face, or any trash on her blazer. The teacher could see the stress on her face and asked if she wanted to switch seats. She got up to try to respond, but not finding the words, Kai interjected, saying she didn't need a switch. That way, she could bounce off and add that she wanted to sit in her spot. One of the classmates then asked if the two of them were an item, making her flush, while Kai coldly answered he was just rehabilitating her. Thinking about that now, Uka realized she didn't know anything about Kai's dating history. She wondered what kind of person he liked, and since she sat next to him now, she wanted to get to know him better. She learned he was good at spinning pencils on his hand, and also he slept in class even when sitting in the front row. Noticing this, the teacher went for a wind-up with a chalkboard eraser, and throwing it, Kai seriously caught it half asleep. Everyone was impressed. Seeing Uka clap as well, some of the students commented she seemed pretty friendly, despite looking like the type who thinks stuff like that was disruptive and annoying. Kai got up from his nap to tell them she was the total opposite, and her behavior now was just a temporary form. He called her amazing, and told his classmates something good might happen if they got to know her. That was enough to get the students to wave at her, and she bowed in response, giving everyone a laugh. With advice from Kai, she gave them a hiya back. She began to think the seat she sat in was magic. With Kai's help, she was going to make 100 friends. After class, she wanted to return Kai's hat, but learned he was nowhere to be found. She decided to look around for him, heading to a place where no one was, and spotted a lemon soda sitting on the windowsill of the storage room. She entered, thinking no one was inside at first, until she spotted Kai's shoes, which spooked her. With him getting up, the two startled each other. Hearing the students looking for him, he told Uka to stay quiet and close the door. He tended to come here a lot when he was sleepy. He gets sleepy during his lunch break. With this being the first time he'd been found out, he was amazed. Uka then returned his hat, and he noticed she washed it. She cleaned it, supposing it was precious to him since he'd always been wearing it. However, he responded that wasn't the case, and deciding to sleep some more, he asked her to wake him up when lunch was over. Sitting down next to him, she wondered what kind of person he was. He had different sides. She couldn't take her eyes off of him. She was curious about his hat, too, but without her even asking, like he was reading her mind, he suddenly told her he wore his hat because he had really bad bed hair. Eventually, he started wearing it out of force of habit. She couldn't believe he was blushing over this. This made her giggle really hard. She couldn't believe that was the reason. Seeing her laughter caught him off guard, but in moments like these, she felt the closest to him. The classmates were surprised to finally find him, since he never told anyone where he disappeared off to. When one of the classmates asked Uka where he was, he suddenly pulled her away, gesturing at her to keep it a secret. Learning things about him made Uka like him more than she did yesterday. She fell for him even more, and this made her back feel hot again. It felt as if her back sprouted wings and she could fly. We arrive on the day of the welcome field trip for the new students. It was supposed to be a casual picnic, but everyone had their eyes on Uka for being overpacked and wearing a jersey. With Ayumi and Satoru's arrival, they overheard some girls talking about a place on the mountain where trees were arranged to make the sky look like a heart. And legend had it, if one saw the heart with their crush, their wish would come true. Satoru then asked if Ayumi was into that kind of stuff, and suggested they find it together. Uka was taken aback. However, Ayumi assured her he didn't mean anything by it, and that he was super dense when it came to romance. Still, Uka was rooting for her though. Uka felt a little jealous, however, wishing she could be a little closer to Kai. He, on the other hand, thought Uka's outfit was nuts. Not making fun of her, he was thinking it looked like she's always trying hard but still going nowhere. Walking along the trail, she got a flashback to her middle school classmate bumping into her, teasing her with the Stone nickname. A classmate passed by, suddenly slipping, but Kai caught her, coldly calling her a klutz before walking away. It made the girl furious, but her friend was betting it made her heart skip a beat. The blonde girl felt there was no point in falling for him though, since there were too many rivals. Marin then suddenly shouted for him to come get his hat back. The other classmates then started asking about why he wore hats, and with Uka about to answer, Kai covered her mouth. He didn't want her to talk about it, and she was the only one who knew the reason. She had no idea. She thought his secret was just common knowledge. She wondered why he would tell her, but then reasoned there was no special reason for it. While having lunch, the gang started talking about how the female classmates were looking up to hopefully find the spot where the trees formed a heart in the sky. Tomoya then brought up how Kai had been with a girl in a romantic place before, and hearing this made Uka's heart ache a little. She felt the little secret they shared was no big deal for sure now. Moving forward, they found a fork in the road, with the sign reading Hachimitsu High School, where an arrow pointed towards a rougher path. Marin asked what was wrong, since their teacher and the other students had supposedly gone that way as well. And despite feeling hesitant given how the path looked, Uka decided they should go that way. The other classmates felt more uncertain with the path becoming more and more rugged. Thunder then boomed, and rain caused a panic. Kai told his classmates to stop running to prevent them from separating. This is where Uka announced they were lost, much to everyone's dismay. The students were having their mix of fun and being upset. One of them pointed out how they had followed the arrow signs properly, so how could they have gotten lost? One of the girls started crying for her mother. Feeling the weight of their expectations, Uka ran off to find the path. Kai let off an annoyed sigh and then chased after her. Continuing her trek, Uka felt like she wasn't helpful at all. Kai caught up to her, where she admitted she didn't know what to do and wished she had her act together. She cried, questioning what would happen if they couldn't make it back. Kai then suddenly grabbed and held her close, telling her to calm down. She then suddenly shoved him away to focus on exactly what she needed to do, finding where they were on the map. With that, he placed his hand on her head, telling her, "Don't move an inch from here." before running off to retrieve their classmates. The female classmates from earlier apologized for blaming Uka for getting them lost. Luckily, Uka was prepared, having carried the backpack around filled with stuff for the entire class, just in case something happened. After handing out all her stuff, Kai offered his lemon soda, knowing she had nothing left for herself. Mentioning he had drunk some already, she tried to deny him. However, he urged her to stop complaining. But really? She thought it'd actually be a privilege for her on the inside. She blamed him for her feelings. Him being cold and then being nice every time made her feel some type of way. He laughed, remarking she probably wasn't thinking straight. She glanced back up at him, never imagining she would fall in love. She had always been that girl, always looking down. He then suddenly told the classmates to come over, and that Uka found something good. He smiled at Uka, giving her credit for discovering the heart shape amongst the trees. So now, even if it rained, she could look up at the sky. The blue sky, the rainbow after the rain. Right now, she was at the center of the endless light. Kai suddenly came to sit next to her, groaning that it was too loud in the back and that he couldn't sleep at all. He noticed her staring, causing Uka to look away and blush. He then made her shoulder his pillow, making her heart race intensely. Despairing about a love that can't be, she wasn't feeling that yet, but felt she was bound for it eventually. She endured bad feelings before, but this was Kai's fault. His fault for making her so happy for the moment. Handing the backpack she borrowed back to her father, she was truly happy to have gone on that school trip. These days, she was eager to get to school. Reaching her classroom, she suddenly found various things atop her desk, and misconstrued them for possibly being torn textbooks and thumbtacks. The classmates spotted her, explaining they all brought something as a thank you gift for her. Uka gave them a warm thank you back. Kai came in, asking what she was looking at, since he didn't bring her anything. His excuse being he hadn't borrowed a towel from their school trip anyway. Uka responded she didn't need anything. She wondered if God would punish her someday for being this lucky. Some classmates in the back called for Uka because one of them had gotten 300 likes of the heart picture she took. The pink-haired classmate, Yuru, then showed a black-haired Kai. They were surprised he was even hot back in middle school. They all wanted to share junior high graduation yearbooks together at school, and asking Uka to bring hers, she got horrible flashbacks of her bullies calling her stone. She then gave her classmates a false smile and apologized. At home after school, she opened that yearbook, cringing at the idea of seeing herself. She felt relieved, because she was worried she might be making a weird face. Come school next day, she joined the girls' group, where they were sharing yearbooks containing Kai, Satoru, Ayumi, and a beautiful girl named Serena. Uka became fixated on the fact this cute girl was in Kai's class. She then let her negative thoughts creep in. She questioned why she brought her yearbook. She thought there's no way it'd help her fit in. She was so embarrassed, she ran out of the classroom. On the school roof, she stared at her junior high yearbook, wanting to seal it away forever. She wished she could seal it away with her memories as well. Kai then suddenly entered, stealing the book. Finding her photo, he told her she looked fine, but that wasn't her problem. She felt bad because she didn't have any happy school trips with her fellow classmates back then. And to this, Kai told her, so what? He explained she was who she was now because of her past. The class showed her yesterday that who she was good. He wanted to show the classmates her picture, but she took the yearbook back, and now ready to show it herself. So, he placed a lemon soda candy on her yearbook to add to her candy pile. It was a prize for her efforts. His words placed great confidence in her, now believing she could make new great memories here. About to return to the classroom, Tomoya had brought Marin, who apologized for messing with the sign on their school trip. I knew it. I knew it. She was mad because Uka was closer with Kai than she was. She nonchalantly took off, saying she was tired of doing that stuff, so she wouldn't anymore. Uka didn't believe she and Kai were close though. However, Tomoya reminded Uka it was rare for Kai to pay attention to a girl. The two seemed close, and he wanted Uka to know that there might be other girls who will think the same thing as Marin. He questioned what Uka's life would be like if she hadn't met Kai, proposing she might have been happier without him. While she managed to escape the pit she was in because of him, bad things have also happened to her because she and him were around each other. He then asked if she thought she was really making progress right now, or was she still the same as she used to be deep down? Should Kai really be by her side? Uka didn't know how to react to that, and ran off, Was Tomoya saying it was wrong for her to come here at all? Reaching the classroom, she overheard some of the guys asking Kai if Serena was his ex-girlfriend. He simply responded by telling them to shut up, which wasn't him denying it. Uka's jaw dropped. She thought maybe if she chased after him, little by little, she could get closer, but felt she was wrong. She felt she just happened to be in the same place as him, but truly hovered here all alone. She felt the harder she tried, the more she realized how distant the two of them were. The next morning, she was in bed with a cold. She wanted to get better fast, because if she was the only one with a cold, everyone would worry about her. Her mom came back in the room with a phone, because Ayumi was apparently calling. But taking the call, Uka wasn't expecting to hear Kai on the line, who stole Ayumi's phone. Uka dropped the phone out of disbelief. The gang actually wanted to hang out, but that was off the table since Uka had a cold. With the friends wishing her a get well soon, Uka expressed she was happy to get a call from them. Kai then had her look outside, and there they were giving their best wishes, causing her to sob in joy. The next day, the teacher brought photos from the school trip. Uka's expressions were that of a mountaineer ghost, while Kai's were as emotionless as ever, except in the photos he shared with Uka. Ayumi then commented that Kai smiled with her a lot, causing Uka to get flustered. Now Ayumi could tell Uka had a crush on him, so she offered all her support, even knowing a chance with Kai was probably rough. Uka was fine with that though, smiling because she had both a friend who was earnest with her and someone she liked. Satoru brought Kai one of the photos where he was smiling with Uka. He gave it back, saying she had a melty-looking smile, and that her smile was cute. Satoru couldn't believe Kai was complimenting a girl. On the way to school in the morning, Uka spotted the red-haired girl that all the students spoke in hushed whispers about, being cute and gorgeous. She'd been a hot topic since their entrance ceremony because of her beauty. She's also Kai's ex-girlfriend. Ayumi explained they dated during the 3rd year of middle school, but after the breakup, things became pretty awkward. The classroom roared with joy, hearing the teacher announce the upcoming school festival, but then had their moods ruined with a reminder that their midterms were in 3 days. Ayumi felt the drag. She hated math and hadn't taken any notes. However, Uka was looking to change that, offering her notes and asking for a group study session. Ayumi was surprised, and with Satoru offering the family restaurant as a study location, she dragged everyone over there quickly. Ordering food, Uka wasn't expecting to see Kai here. Satoru and Ayumi left the two alone to grab drinks, and that's where things got really awkward for Uka. She thought about bringing up trivial conversation topics, but refrained since who would care? What she really wanted to know about was his past relationship with Serena. Things would only get more awkward because Serena's friend group arrived at the restaurant, and her gaze towards Kai was incredibly awkward. Serena's friends got nosy, asking him who confessed first and why they broke up. However, with him ignoring their questions, Satoru had to do his best to answer. Kai's friend group considered changing restaurants, but that wasn't going to work, as Uka reminded everyone her curfew was 5 o'clock. This caused Serena's group to break out in laughter. Serena, with an irritated look, told her friends to knock it off. Kai was going to intervene over them insulting Uka, but surprisingly, Serena dumped her drink all over her friends, causing them to leave. Serena felt satisfied because they'd been pissing her off, always being loud in class and saying awful things. She warned them a bunch of times, but they always laughed it off like she was joking. She was ready to take her leave, but before dipping off, Uka thanked her, and in return, she apologized. Uka was certainly surprised by Serena's kindness. Now she could see just how alike Serena and Kai were. Back at school, Uka watched the 3 girls from before dump water on Serena for revenge. Serena knew that since she'd become popular, the girls were clinging onto her hoping to get some boys. This angered one of them enough to the point of threatening violence, but Uka took the hit for Serena. Uka was fine though. She was used to it. She did her best to defend Serena, and of course, Kai was going to come to their aid as well. The mean girls then did their usual song and dance like the bullies who were losing always did, and split off. Kai then covered Serena in his hoodie, telling her to call for him next time, and she ran after him, telling him she didn't need it. With Tomoya checking on Uka, her smile faded. She couldn't ask anything she wanted to know, because their relationship was none of her business. She couldn't get involved, believing someone like herself wasn't allowed to be next to him. On another day, Kai's group was handling door greeter duties. He came in late with a new cardigan since he gave his hoodie away.
Uka wondered if everything was alright with Serena, because she was arriving with the same group of friends who tried to bully her yesterday, and they were playing nice, asking if Uka was okay. They sincerely apologized, and Serena explained the three of them were like that, and actually had some good sides to them too. She didn't want to end up hating them, so she tried her best to still get along. Nah, I'm saying if you do that to me and be dumb, I'm kicking you to the curb. No good friends act like that. Later in class, Yuru pointed out that Uka would look great with a ponytail. She got to quick work, making Uka look so cute. Uka wondered when the last time her hair had been tied. She felt a little embarrassed with the back of her neck exposed. Kai was proud. Since she got so much attention, he believed she wouldn't need his help as much. Uka wondered what his intention was by saying that. It could be interpreted as, "Get away from me." During class, some boys were making a ruckus, saying they hadn't been taking notes at all and were going to fail. Uka tried to offer them her notes, but they declined. They were just joking, and were totally planning on doing the bare minimum to pass anyway. This interaction made Uka feel like she failed, misreading what they meant. She sat in the library, trying to understand the meaning of the fun the boys from earlier had. The book she read interpreted it as getting carried away. She kind of understood, but also didn't. Walking the school grounds, she spotted some boys prodding Kai about why he and Serena broke up. They started throwing their theories out. Maybe one of them cheated, or their personalities clashed. A normal girl might think, "Does he really like me? I can't tell what he's thinking." They wondered if Kai actually said words like, "I love you," and felt jealous. He responded with, "I'm only human." Something Uka fixated on. She assumed he must have shown a face that only Serena has seen, one that she'd never get to see in her entire life. However, she wasn't expecting him to suddenly grab her arm and tell her he was tired. In his secret spot where he wanted to rest, he had Uka promise to wake him when the bell rang. Uka wondered if she was like an alarm clock to him, but she was glad she could at least be of some use to him. He suddenly brought up how she said she was used to it after getting slapped the other day. He asked if she meant it literally, but no, she'd actually never been slapped before. Without saying it outwardly, he seemed somewhat relieved, touching her face in the spot that was hit. It made her bright red, and in turn, made him bright with light laughter. He then dozed off, while she was screaming on the inside, nearly forgetting how to breathe. She decided to take a walk and come back to him when it was time. She felt like maybe she was exaggerating the meaning behind his touch. Serena's friend group came up to her, asking if she knew where Kai was, and with her pretending not to know, Serena could tell she actually did. Serena supposed the storage room on the 4th floor was pretty suspicious. Uka noted Serena's closeness to Kai. Serena started to bring up their past, where he had always slept in places with no one around. Back then, it was the school roof. She used to be the one who would wake him up back then. Serena was friendly with Uka. Uka thought she really was amazing. Cute, strong, on top of that, such a good person. Serena then remarked that Uka was like how she was in middle school. However, Uka downplayed herself. She responded that she just happened to find Kai in the storage room, not that he'd told her personally. Serena looked shocked in response. Uka wondered how she could possibly change when she was always this self-deprecating. She tried to apologize, when suddenly, Tomoya came by holding Serena's phone, asking why she kept a picture of her ex. Kai came downstairs, where Tomoya brought up that Serena still liked him with the photo as proof. However, Yuru cleared this up, saying she had that same photo as well. There was a rumor that if one had that photo of him, they'd be popular. Serena explained she only kept it because she gets asked for it by girls who don't have it. She then handed Kai his hoodie back, and from there, the other classmates supposed that if they kept photos of other classmates with defining traits, they could possibly start having the same traits as well. They wondered what traits Uka's photo would give them, and for some reason, Kai answered lacking self-respect, self-deprecating, inferiority complex. They thought he was being mean initially, but he continued. Self-sacrifice, honest, compassionate, brave, also weirdly distrustful, as he patted her head. As the classmates took off, he told Yuru to tie Uka's hair up again, not because Uka liked it, but because he did. Uka was caught off guard by that, so much that her legs gave out. His positive words rang through her mind. She decided to hang on to the courage to stay in love with him. She wanted to push forward. With their teacher telling them the school festival needed executive committee members, Kai was surprised to see Uka raising her hand. She wasn't going to give up on trying new things until the day she could truly stand beside him. Some boys stood up, flabbergasted by Uka's bravery. They wanted to know Kai's opinion because he was in many ways her caretaker. He told her not to give up halfway though, and with her affirmation, everyone began to cheer her on. Uka was so excited, she joyfully exclaimed the fun she was having to her parents. She felt she had a place to belong after all this time. However, her bike ride was getting out of control downhill until Kai caught her safely. Students from other classes were discussing the booths each of their classrooms were holding. Uka's class was apparently the luckiest because running a maid cafe was always the most popular booth. And Uka created a super detailed proposal for the student council, despite delivering it incredibly nervously while shaking. Many girls outside the class wished they were doing a maid cafe. After collecting all the cardboard she needed, Uka and Kai had a discussion about how he always said things different from everyone else. He claimed it was because he was an idiot, and she wondered what he meant by that. And so, he answered it was because he was always breaking the rules. He lived by his own rules, something that she praised him for highly. However, he claimed he wasn't. He was just following her rules now, running the executive committee. Tumbling on her bike once more, Uka found herself surrounded by her fellow classmates who didn't want to help before. But now, they were willing. They all began to giggle with her speechlessness, as the only thing she could focus on was Kai's words telling her she lived by her own rules. She was later overflowing with motivation having her classmates read through the entire list of things they should select for their maid cafe menu. Everyone was coming together. She was able to rely on others and not just herself to make things happen. And now everyone was collecting cardboard with her. Their cafe signs were coming together. With Ayumi and Satoru having flirty banter and him chasing after her, some of the girls from class thought some relationships might form during the festival. Staring at Kai and Serena later, Uka thought the two of them looked so bright together. She was still in love with him, but right now, something was more important, making the cafe a huge success. Then, talking to Kai during the festival. It's the day of Hachimitsu High Festival. All the girls were shocked seeing Uka's personal cafe sign drawn on the chalkboard. She was quite skilled at drawing. The maid girls were charming all the customers, selling various foods and desserts. They didn't have enough maids, so the classmates dragged in Uka as well. After getting dressed, she took orders frantically, eventually becoming completely worn out from all the work. Even being given a break, they weren't going to let her maid duties end. She'd have to get right back on it. Wandering outside during her break, Uka truly felt happy for the first time. She got the chance to watch an event where each class presented their hottest students on screen, and became discouraged seeing Serena's beauty. Then, with Kai's turn and all the girls screaming, we suddenly hear him say he's in charge of Uka. She was totally put on the spot. She wondered what that was all about. Whatever he meant by that made her really happy. But then found herself surrounded by girls who questioned what kind of relationship she had with Kai. They assumed since he was her caretaker, he would leave once he was all done. And so they left, getting exactly what they wanted. These words hurt Uka deeply. He stayed by her side out of responsibility, so would he leave once that was all over? She accidentally knocked over her lemon soda, and that's when Kai appeared. He smiled as the light shined on him, asking what she was doing in here. He checked on her head, making sure she was all right, and decided to take a break with her as well. Uka suddenly stood up, telling him she'd always talk with him when she got the chance, and that she'd thank him in advance. Then, they overheard girls from the outside discussing whether or not Kai would ever get a girlfriend, and suggesting there's no way Uka was his type. His answer to this was to open up the storage room they were in and show that he was holding Uka's hand to them. After seeing Uka off, Tomoya asked Kai whether he'd push her before she became completely dependent on him, or protect her to the very end. Kai didn't think what he was doing was a big deal. However, Tomoya told him to think over it carefully. Regardless, Uka was completely determined to talk to him until the day he'd leave her. We eventually moved to a dating-style event, where Uka took the place of Serena. Things were getting awkward for her, so Kai jumped in, telling everyone she'd be dropping out of this one. Uka cried, still fixated on the fact he'd be gone one day, but he suddenly tells her, "I'll protect you, always." He took what he said about it not being a big deal back, before walking away from Tomoya. With classmates staring at the bulletin board, Uka's class 1B was excited seeing they won the Special Recognition Award. It's the first time a first-year class has won an award. They were all giving their thanks to the efforts led by Uka, and as a reward, their teacher offered to take them out for a meal. After everyone enjoyed the meal, walking home because of her curfew time, Uka was stopped by Kai. He didn't feel like joining the classmates who wanted to go do karaoke, and has decided to walk Uka part of her way back home, but was now offering the little time she had left to go out to the arcade with him. She was glad he offered. She always wanted to go, but never had the courage to go alone. He just laughed, responding he never got tired of her. Uka wondered if she was a little full of herself, but now felt like Kai was acting a little differently. She was certain there'd be more fun ahead. Hearing the students spreading rumors of her and Kai dating, Serena vehemently denied that being the case. She then got dragged out by some other girls who wanted to talk to her for a minute. Behind the school, the girls had beef with her, because one of their friends' boyfriends had a crush on her. Luckily, Uka and the gang came to save her, but the leader still left, saying if they did break up, they'd ruin Serena's life here at school. Kai tried to go after the girl who was threatening, but got stopped by Serena briefly. However, he rejected the idea of him stopping to go meet with a senior Ogumi who supposedly had a crush on her. Uka and Ayumi went to check on Serena, so she gave her backstory on what happened back in middle school. It was during her second year of middle school, Serena had tried to stop the blonde girl, Tao, from bullying another girl who was put into a similar situation. Serena from that point on became the main subject of bullying from Tao's group. She felt alone. She didn't know what to do. That's when Kai suddenly chose to pair up with her on an assignment, and he suddenly started referring to her by first name. She was happy, really, really happy. Since Kai stood out the most in class, the other students stopped messing with her. He was considerate of her, choosing not to leave Serena behind when the classmates would invite him to things but not her. And one day, on the rooftop, he suddenly kissed her. She began to feel as long as she had him, that was enough for her. One day, he was absent from school, and she became the target of bullying again. She ran out from the classroom, finding Kai had just overslept, and she cried, realizing she was far too dependent on him and had become a weaker person. She assumed Kai thought she was afraid of being alone, but she was different now. Ayumi inquired as to why they broke up, and to that, Serena called herself the worst. The other girls had told her Kai was only dating her because he felt sorry for her. She didn't exactly believe them, but oftentimes it was hard to tell what Kai was thinking. The day she broke up with him, she told Kai that she needed him, but that he did not need her. She then asked if Uka hated her, but she did not. Uka then asked if Serena still liked him, and trying to hold back her tears, she responded she didn't like him anymore. Not one bit. Uka smiled back with silence, calling Serena bad at lying. A teacher then came to them, letting Serena know she was safe. Uka told Serena she was fine, since the teacher was here and she had Kai. Serena tried to deny her love for Kai still, bringing up Uka's feelings for him, and Uka admitted it, but said her feelings were more out of respect and admiration. So even if she had feelings for him, she said it wasn't like she loved him. Uka knew Serena was holding back for her sake. She knew Serena liked Kai, and Kai liked Serena. With summer now beginning, she felt she had no place getting in the middle of them. Staring up at the sky back at home, she reflected on how she fell in love with someone she shouldn't have, how she only ever thought of herself, about her world, her resolve, nothing else. She saw some girls walking down the street in yukatas for the summer festival. She bet Kai and Serena looked cute together. She wanted to see them together, to sear the image into her mind, and get so dejected her heart would give up. Yumi then showed up at the door, inviting her to the festival, all while Kai anxiously watched them walk off from behind. At the festival, Uka learns Ayumi didn't invite Satoru. That way, they could have love talks. She wasn't going to push Uka to tell Kai she loved him, knowing it might be too much for her right now. Uka perceived Ayumi's worry for her. She then spotted Serena, who wasn't here with Kai, much to her surprise. She overheard Serena say Kai rejected her invitation because she has Uka. Satoru finally found Ayumi. He'd been looking everywhere for her. Even though she told him she was spending time with Uka, she took him away to brief him for a moment. Uka's insecurities hit. She felt like she was in the way. There were so many sparkling people here, and she just admired them. Maybe just admiring them was enough for her. Just gazing at them, taking in their beauty, that was enough. That way, she couldn't hurt anyone. Kai then called out to her. She wasn't expecting to see him and she ran away. She ran and ran, even though he kept calling her name. He caught her, asking why she was running. He got wide-eyed seeing her tears and wiped them. She made an excuse, saying her tears were from something good happening. She tried walking away, but he stopped her again, saying he'd walk with her. And holding her hand as they walked, she said it was fine and asked him to let go. To that, he responded, "If you don't like it, then shake me off." She told him she didn't like it, and he told her she was bad at lying. He added she should have answered his messages to her at least once this summer, and that he went to her place to invite her, but Ayumi beat him to it. He smiled, reminding her she couldn't shake him off, but she finally did, telling him she was going to find Serena, and dashed off again. She eventually found her with Ayumi, and admitted that she truly did like Kai from the bottom of her heart. She apologized for lying. She apologized for making things harder for everyone. But Serena was glad, telling her they should both be loud and proud about liking Kai. As the fireworks showered, Ayumi wailed. She was so happy. Alright, we're finally moving forward in this romance. Find out what happens next by subscribing to my channel. For now though, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.